Well, we're live on my end now too.
Beautiful. Let me just pull the chat in real fast. And I did say I was more or less going to plan on ignoring the chat while we talk, just because you had reached out and asked to have this conversation. And I wanted to give you enough time to be able, so we can actually have a conversation here instead of worrying about the chat. But I will read pertinent chats and super chats at the end of the stream if you are interested in sticking around for that. But
Oh, sure.
um, first off, I mean, thanks for joining. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm sorry, I'm still working a little bit.
That's
I've uh,
that's all right.
I've got my paperwork turned in, and now I'm headed back to find some place to take a shower and go to sleep. And I wanted to talk about positivity because I see a lot of negativity in the manosphere.
Yes.
There is a whole bunch of people out there who really think that there's the end is near and there's no hope for tomorrow. And I think that everybody needs to just take a step back and take a breath and look at some of the horrible things that have happened to people uh, over the course of our history, and then compare, the horrors of the Black Plague, or you know,
I agree. I agree.
to what we're going through now, and we've got it really fucking nice.
We do. We do. I agree. One thing I've been trying to point out lately when I talk big picture about certain things, and I have a few videos in the can that are coming out shortly, but I kind of assume that most of the people that watch my videos, watch your videos, we all have roofs over our heads every night. We don't, well, more or less, we have places to sleep that are
Yeah.
eminently warm, and whether that's a cab of a truck or a house, it doesn't, I don't discriminate on that at all. Um, we're not wanting for food. In a very real sense, like I've literally in my entire life, I was thinking about this. There's never been a day where I actually was physically fearful that I would not eat that night. Our lives are very easy, comparatively speaking, and you're absolutely right. And I think that maybe backing away and having a little bit more big picture gratitude would be helpful.
Well, what you can do with this knowledge of, you know, things could be worse knowledge is you can use that as a motivator for
Yes.
yourself. And I do that. I was overseas living in Ukraine, and I had a school teaching business English to Ukrainian professionals.
Wow.
And then Ukraine got invaded, and that business went away.
Right.
Um, and I got back to America with $13,000 in my pocket. Everything else is just gone. Those bank accounts in Ukraine, supposedly the money still exists, but it's Ukraine. They'll never, ever.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. I did not, I'll be honest, I did not know that.
Well,
Wow.
I don't talk about it a hell of a lot.
Right, right. So I, I don't know how much you want to get into or not, but you were basically running a business over there and
Yeah.
had a life set up.
Well,
And
it's the second business that I've fucking gone bankrupt out of.
hey, if you ask our president elect, it's that's the only way to do business. I know
Well,
plenty.
it's better to go bankrupt and get the experience than it is to just work a drudge,
Mm,
horrible job you hate that's killing you on the inside every day.
mm. Yeah,
You know,
I recently left that situation and quite unceremoniously said goodbye to 15 years of career equity, whatever that means. Uh,
yeah, that's tech buzz bullshit.
ex- Thank you. Yes. I I yeah, it is so fleeting. And how many years were you over there? I mean, how long did that take?
I was over there full time from 2016. I
Mm,
had a business before that where I was selling grain and rice and stuff to Sierra Leone,
wow.
because I knew the brother of the former president of Sierra Leone. We had a really good deal, and then his brother lost the election, and that business just went away overnight. We went from 7.5% import duties to 45% import duties when they read out the results. So that business model just went away.
Right. Okay.
then,
Okay.
then they tried to seize all of our stock. I donated that to the church over there just so they couldn't take it and sell it for themselves.
Wow. That's I don't even know what I I don't even know what I don't know about that entire life or line of work. That's amazing. I did not know about that.
Yeah,
Um,
point of sale commodity trading is not for the faint of heart.
oh, I would think not. I would think not. Most entrepreneurship, and let me ask you this because obviously you're a very industrious person. I recently have had many people, especially in my comment section, kind of push back on me when I talk about how much opportunity there actually is from a small business perspective for men, individuals, young guys, especially who don't really have much to lose. And the only option is not to do it. The only thing that is failure is not doing it basically, because it costs a couple $100s in basically licensing fees, if that. Like in the state of Ohio, the business license is $50. And
Yeah,
then to get insurance for a year is, I think mine is $325 for the year. And EINs, they're free. And then you can basically 1099 bill anybody for contract services.
yep.
And it's fine
And
as
it doesn't matter for what either.
exactly. And as long as you file a Schedule C or 1099 miss, and however you want to file that, come tax time, of course, talk to an accountant. But it, like, I guess my father's been in business for 29 years, small time contractor, nothing massive, but I grew up around that kind of mindset. So maybe I take for granted that it was so drilled into me from such an early age. Did you, what led you to that kind of entrepreneurship, that kind of entrepreneurial spirit?
Uh, when I was about, 30 or so, um, I became a father. Surprise!
Okay. Okay. You had a whoopsie.
Yeah, and I realized that I wanted a better life for my kids.
Right. Absolutely. I
And
think, yeah.
I was working as a electrician at the time. Um, I I went and started. I bought a bucket truck and I started installing fiber optic line for uh, Time Warner Cable as a contractor, and that was really my first entrepreneurial foray. And the money was great for a while until
Right.
they saturated the market with fiber optic cable.
Well, now I noticed that the fiber line that they ran out this past summer, the individuals that were the contracting service, what language do they speak in Haiti? It's
Probably Spanish.
that's yeah, it was. That's all I'll say, just to keep it friendly. But yeah, my dad ran into the same thing in construction. Not enough Spanish. You need to learn Spanish basically to be able to be successful in that trade these days. And it can pivot on a dime. But to get back to the debate on positivity versus negativity, I definitely struggle with that myself, because I get a lot of viewership obviously from people that aren't in that manosphere MGTOW space, and they're coming at it from a different life perspective. So they don't really understand what I talk about when I talk about my experiences with women or dating, and that's really the only places that I get sort of negative, because I'm just talking about my experience with it. And so, shocker, it's not been positive.
Right.
But I do agree, and something I was talking to another individual recently about the need to kind of focus on other things, and not as a distraction, but just, I guess maybe there needs to be less focus on the things we can't really control, which is other people. And that's kind of the, in sobriety, they talk about that a lot, is you focus on what you can control, and other people is not one of them. And if other people don't like you, that's not something that's you're failing, as long as you're trying your best on your end.
Right. I come at that from the point of view of a stoic. It's exactly what you're saying. Don't waste your energy on things you cannot control. One of other people is one of them. World events is another. Politics. Sure, it's fun to talk about sometimes, but there's really, if voting was super important, they wouldn't let you do it.
So. That's a very good point. So I guess the obvious question is, how do you personally, get yourself there? Do you think it's just a function of maturing? Because I feel like I've realized. Oh, go ahead.
I'm a crude and vulgar man, and I will take, if I think something is going against me, my first response is to tell it, or whoever that person is or entity, fuck you. You're not going to get me down, So, and then I take a good, honest look at the problem, and if there's something I can do about it, I'll do something about it. If there's not something I can do about it, I'll find something else that'll profit me, and hit it from a different angle. I refuse to let things as silly as money, an imaginary currency, rule my life. Why should somebody else's fantasy have any impact on the way I view the world?
Right. I went through years of just absolute consternation, because I spent the majority of my life basically living paycheck to paycheck in debt. And I had to go scorched earth, Dave Ramsey, snowball, pay it off as fast as possible to get out of it. And I had to settle some of it. That was part of it. But recently, and especially just this year, I walked away from a 6-figure job. And that taught me, when I finally realized that I didn't need that much to exist. I spend, honestly, compared to the majority of Americans, very little. We're talking $30,000 a year, and I can pay all my bills, including property taxes. You just don't need that much. And one of the biggest, I think, and it's interesting, because I watched a video from the Lotus Eaters, of all people. They had a finance guy in there from Britain, talking about how fiat currency, the concept of an iterative debt cycle that's always going to zero. So your 2% is every year, and that's considered optimal and prime. But that 2% is every year, year on year on year on year, compounding. That frog is boiling. The water is basically boiling when it comes to our currency at this point. And it's made everybody just frantic. Because I see it I get hundreds of comments on my videos, and it's there. Half of them, especially when I talk about work or money, it is, I can't survive on 85. I can't survive on 75,000. I can't survive on $4,000 a month. I can't, everyone is so frazzled. It feels like they can't breathe. So what would you say to them?
Well, I would say if you can't survive on, if you're making more than like 30,000 a year, and you're not able to survive and save money, you're doing it wrong. You're living beyond your means.
I agree.
And you gotta just suck it up, and there's no parking spots, damn it.
Oh, take your time, sir.
Well, we'll be parking on the street. That's why we carry a large pew-pew and have a dog to wake us up. I make roughly 70,000 a year driving this truck.
That's great.
Just, it's pretty, it's not consistent. So
Right.
It may be more, it may be less. But last year I made a little over 70. And in the 2.5 years I've been doing this, I have been able to bank nearly 100,000.
That's fantastic.
And
that's very impressive.
I have a plan for this money too. I've got a master's in mechanical engineering, and I worked for Beechcraft for a while, and I absolutely loved building airplanes. And when I got, on the plane coming back from Ukraine, I was like, what the fuck am I going to do with myself? And I was like, it's like, I want to build airplanes again. And everything I've done has been working towards that goal of building them again. I used to own an ultralight, and I lost that when I had my first divorce. And I love little planes and flying around and stuff. That's what I'm going to do.
You know what's great about? Oh, go ahead.
So I got. I took a look online and found places that were giving out free land, and I found a nice little place in Kansas where they give you 2 acres as long as you improve it.
No kidding.
First year you're there. Yeah, and I used that $13K to build a little shed dominium.
Which is an improvement. It's an improvement. It's a material improvement on the property.
Yeah, that's right. And I liked the area well enough. It's that I bought the 2 plots of land, one on either side of me, and I've got 6 acres now.
That's and this was 2 years ago. So
2.5 years ago.
2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I mean, I did something similar with the rental that I renovated. I mean, I didn't renovate it with the intention of it being a rental, but that's how it turned out. I bought it for way less than it was quote unquote worth, and just put 1.5 years into it. And because the funny thing is, I really wish people believed me, or I felt like people believed me when I said this, but you really still can just do something if you want to in this country. It just, you're not going to do it in New York City.
No. Well, you've never been able to, just start something in New York City without a big nest egg.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Maybe at the time of Benjamin Franklin and George Washington, you might have been able to do something like that, but not since then.
Right.
Not since it became the financial capital of the United States.
Exactly. So tell me, you don't have to tell me the actual website or anything, but did you just literally just Google free land, or how did you come
No,
across that deal?
I was watching YouTube videos by
Mm,
a creator called the World According to Briggs or
I love that
Biggs.
guy. I love
So
that guy.
and this was one of the properties that he was talking about, and then I went to some of the websites he talked about, and they were in some areas that were even further away than I wanted to be from civilization.
Right.
So I went to the state of Kansas website and found a place that wasn't on his list.
That's phenomenal. And it's funny. Briggs is actually doing a second channel called Do It with Briggs, where he's helping small creators build their YouTube channel. And he actually evaluated my channel and told me what kind of content to start making more of, which was, shocker, the work videos, which I just got 30,000 views on. So he's extremely helpful. He's awesome. Yeah. Very, very good stuff. I'm a big fan. One of the only reasons I haven't pulled the trigger on like buying land in Wyoming or Kansas is just because my parents live 20 minutes away from me. So
right.
It's important for me to be there, especially, as my dad and mom get up there in years. And family's important. So.
Right. And this is my truck. Isn't it lovely?
It is lovely, sir. Nice fluorescence, or is that an LED?
That's LED.
What do you own that rig?
No, I do not.
Okay. Yeah, because I know they're not cheap.
No, and it allows you to live pretty much at work.
Right.
And if you're willing to sacrifice a little bit of your personal comfort.
Well, but what is what is it's like 800 square foot, $2,500 a month apartment in Columbus, Ohio versus, it's everything. What did Thomas Sowell say? There are no solutions, only compromises. There's always a compromise. And the problem is you have to get to a point where you are, you get yourself to a point where you are no longer tolerating intolerable situations. And it's all about the compromises you're willing to tolerate. I was willing to live in literally a construction site for a year and a half in order to get an asset that now pays me 20% on the capital investment, basically, minus my labor. And I still sleep on a couch that has a giant, like, springs are broken and it's like a giant bendy dip in the middle. I need to stop. It's going to be bad for my back long term, but I still end up sleeping on that couch every night. And most people, they always, whenever I talk about real estate on the channel, I'll get a ton of feedback because I always bring up cheap neighborhoods in commutable distances to major metro centers where you can get jobs like Cincinnati or Columbus or Indianapolis in the Midwest, because quite frankly, the Midwest is kind of the only last place you can buy real estate. But people, they really don't seem interested in.
There's cheap land out west as well.
True.
If you don't mind living in a desert.
Well, I guess what's funny is when I hear out west, I automatically think of California, Oregon, and Washington. And maybe that's not accurate. Maybe that's West Coast.
Yeah. You're not going to get anything on the water.
Mm. Right. Unless
you're in Kansas, because I bought or my land is on the water. I'm on a reservoir. It's a small reservoir, but I
Well,
can go. I can 50 feet outside of my front door. I can go fishing.
really, no kidding.
Yeah,
That's that you cannot find that in Ohio, not for cheap. They lakefront up north is even Indian Lake down here. It's pricey, and nobody lets go of them. They stay in the family. Like
yeah.
we have a family cabin that my dad. I mean, my grandpa bought it in '81, and we still go up there twice a year to maintain it, just to make sure that it's still standing, even if we don't use it.
Yeah. I went back to my homestead over Christmas, and somebody'd come in and stole my um, solar panels and my
Oh,
inverter
jeez.
and my batteries. But I got that stuff from Harbor Freight.
I love Harbor Freight. I see.
So
I knew you were a smart man. Harbor Freight is fantastic. The Yeah, with the way that they make tools anymore, I mean, they make DeWalt drills in China. Like it doesn't matter. The quality is you basically what we found, me and Dad work in construction, we found that basically you get locked into a tool ecosystem based on which batteries you end up buying. So we have a lot of DeWalt batteries, so we end up using DeWalt drills and saws.
I'm the same way with Makita.
Makita, there you go. Yeah, and the quality is exactly the same. There's no difference.
And you can't let stuff get you down, and you've got to be able to get excited for planning for the future. And it's very joyful to see the little steps being ticked off as you're moving towards where you want to be. I get a lot of satisfaction out of that.
I agree.
And
One thing I think is sorely lacking, and to be fair, YouTube is primarily entertainment. All of the content that gets the most views is always the most base, bottom level TikTok girls on loop over and over and over again.
right.
I understand that. Or like the whatever
reaction videos.
right, right.
Yeah.
Which I mean, to be fair, I've done a few, but it always seems to be related to a specific topic for me. Anyway, like I personally, I've stopped watching like the whatever podcast. I just can't do it anymore because it's
Right.
always the same girl over and over and over again. Like I don't watch Fresh and Fit. I can't watch people like Rich Cooper anymore. It's just always the same rhetoric over and over and over again. What can you do to improve? But, oh, wait, the women don't have to do anything. And that's a very negative place to get yourself into. And sans any kind of serious goal or mission, you do end up mired in this negative feedback loop. And it took me years to get out of it. When I quit, I mean, I drank for 12 years every day. I drank myself silly every day for 12 years and destroyed my body and my brain. My brain is still not 100% what it was. I used to be the quickest tack in the room, man. I really, there are still some times when I can't form sentences and it really bothers me. And I know it's a direct result of alcohol abuse. So quit drinking now, kids, if you're listening. Anyway, my point, this is coffee, by the way. My point is, when I quit drinking, I watched a lot of YouTube and I watched a lot of like sober, personal development YouTube. And of course, in the algorithm from 2021 to 2023, they pushed a lot of the Fresh and Fit, Pearl, the Manosphere stuff. This is how all the things you need to do in order to get a certain result. And I tried to emulate a lot of that stuff. And I tried, honestly, quite fruitlessly to make it work for me. And it just didn't work out. And I did find myself getting in this negative feedback loop of, this isn't working for me. And I had to literally rebuild an entire house by myself as a distraction, I guess. But it's kind of a pithy way to put it. But you're absolutely correct. I don't think people are willing to try to allow themselves to have something worth looking forward to. And go ahead.
I don't know if that's the case or whether it's that it's future planning and forward thinking is not being emphasized enough for people to get into the mindset of, actually seriously answering the question, where do you want to be in 5 years?
I haven't heard anyone seriously pose that question to young men specifically for years. You're absolutely correct. They don't talk about it anymore. That's not something that people bring up.
And I don't know why that's the case, but I think that if people would get into that mindset, into a long-term thinking, because we're going to be on this planet for a while. Well, whether or not anything happens, we're gonna be here. Me personally, I retire, even though I'm probably not going to retire, in 11 years. And, I'm planning, where am I going to retire now? Where can I go where people will not mess with me ever, where everything is paid off and my bills are as small as possible. And the only thing I have to worry about is my medical bills in the future. Right. I want to be able to take one nice trip a year. And that's it. That's I want to do what I want to do, and I want to go out and play every once in a while.
Let me ask you this, because I think let me ask you this. Do you see that future in Kansas where you bought that land?
I do.
Okay.
I am looking at some other places just because there's some laws being passed in Kansas right now that I don't like. Like they're going to start charging me for water I get out of a well.
Interesting. That's don't like that.
I'm either going to have to figure out, how I can live with that or how I can get around it, or if I just need to go someplace else.
Okay.
And the cheapest land in America, if you want to go someplace with 4 seasons, is West Virginia.
That's very true.
You get away from. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it's a hop, skip, and a jump away from me. Like West Virginia is just across the Ohio state line, and actually Southeast Ohio is beautiful. The foothills of the Appalachians is excellent, beautiful. So I guess my broader question, you see a future, because I get a lot of feedback on this. You see a future in America is my broader question there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've lived overseas. It's
okay.
It's not a panacea.
Okay.
And
straight from the horse's mouth. You know what I mean? It's like I've interacted a little bit with people like George Gammon on Twitter, and I've gotten the same kind of response. Like I said, I said I spend $1,500 a month to exist, and he said, yeah, it's about the same. And now, granted, he probably has a bigger house, but
yeah,
that gives you
what's that matter?
It's just more you have to clean. Like I literally, one of the main reasons I bought this other house is my big first world problem was that I had a 1,600 square foot 2-story house that was finished, and now I had to clean it, and it is too much. And with the Swiffer and the vacuum, I am done in 20 minutes in this little 850, 900 square foot house, if you include the breezeway. And I'm a happy man.
Yep.
Okay. So it is reassuring. And I thank you for sharing that you do plan on staying in the States, because I really like my Second Amendment rights. I really do. And now it matters which county and which state you live in, but
Yeah.
those First Amendment and Second Amendment rights they kind of go away when you live in other countries. And I don't think Americans really understand that.
The only time I question whether or not I want to stay in America is I look at who is working in the healthcare field. And I think to
Yeah.
myself, do I want these people taking care of me when I'm old? So
I have
the answer to that is I've got to make enough money to have a home healthcare nurse
right.
until it's time for hospice.
Because quite frankly, Soylent Green was a documentary, the end of it there. Great movie, by the way. But yeah, I'm of the same bent. I have serious chronic, I'll be honest, I have hepatitis from drinking. So the liver will end up going eventually. Right now, it seems fine. Last blood work I got, I was clean bill of health. He told me I could have a beer. I said, no, actually I can't. But I worry about that too. And I'm very wary of doctors, because I don't think the medical education system, it's total indoctrination of a early retirement from life agenda. Let's just put it that way. And then they get them all on the hook for $500,000 in student loan debt. And they basically, in order to get recertified on the boards, like they have to pay that $500,000 back, and they have to comply to get recertified for that $300,000 a year job. It's the same.
300,000?
You know what?
It's more than that.
Well, whatever it is, they get them on the hook, and it's a hamster wheel, just like the girl that graduates with $80,000 in English degree debt and goes and works an office job. It's the same, like the ratios are the same. It's the same amount of your paycheck going into that debt system. Mm-hmm. And I don't necessarily trust desperate people, I guess.
Right. And I completely agree with you on that. I'm not going to get religious on you tonight, but
please.
Well, one of the few times that Jesus actually went out and attacked people was when he went to the temple and he saw the moneylenders in there.
The one time he got angry. Yeah.
He whipped them out of the temple, and I lived my life without embracing usury.
I can't say the same, because I spent I'm in debt right now. I have a house, so a mortgage. So it's I grew up in the church, so definitely on the same page on that one. Jesus also said, don't worry about tomorrow, because tomorrow has enough worry of its own. And I think that sentiment is sorely lacking in a lot of online discourse, because it's all about getting the next view, getting the next video out, getting the next revenue dollar, which I'm guilty of it too. I put out a video every day, because that's how YouTube works. You kind of have to. And, I tried to make the topics entertaining enough, but people seem to like it. But I realized I was sending myself to an early grave, getting so mired in that kind of pessimism. And I was on death's bed, because from liver failure when I was 3.5 years ago. And I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect at all. And I still get really worked up about useless things. I sometimes put it in a video because it's entertaining, and that people like that. But It's definitely something I struggle with. I still look at I have a running spreadsheet of all my expenses and incomes, and I still add it up every day and look at everything just to make sure I'm not going to ever end up in that same place I was a couple years ago.
Yeah.
But
You know,
it's
and it's just a question of what are you willing to, what do you need? What are you willing to give up to get what you need? Not what you want, but what you need.
well, that's a very tough question. How would you define that?
Well, you need food, shelter, heat, clothing, insurance,
Right.
um, and some way to occupy your time. It's going to
That
keep you out of jail.
the I I think you just said the quintessential human problem is we have a lot of time on our hands because we don't hunt our food anymore and we don't worry about wildebeest eating us in the middle of the night while we sleep. Boredom is the number one problem in America, especially. I mean, I, it took me it took me years, at least 1 year after I quit drinking, to get used to doing nothing. And even now, I wake up and I work out. I'll answer comments like I work on the YouTube channel every day, at least 3 to 5 hours a day, and then that's not including shooting stuff and coordinating and back and forth and all of the logistics that goes into it. And I've got other irons in the fire, the rental, and then some contracting gigs that are coming up at the end of the month. And I have recalibrated my free time, like the way I fill my free time with meaningful activities. And I take for granted that has taken me years to get to a point where I am productive most days and not just wondering what I'm going to do with my next moment.
Right.
Because when you have a lot of free time and you're just letting it fester, that's when, well, for an alcoholic, that's when you really want to start drinking. But I don't know.
Do
Yeah,
you
go
have a
ahead.
dog? Do you have a dog? Do you have got a cat?
So I don't have any pets personally. I've talked about this a little bit. I watched a lot of dogs die over my childhood, and I
Right.
I dealt with the family. It was a really I was at a funeral today. Death has been a prevalent part of my life, almost in a stoic. Be aware of the morbidity. Be cognizant of how little time you actually have. That's been a big part of my life, and I haven't committed to actually getting an animal, getting a dog. I probably should. Um, I just haven't because honestly, I don't want to deal with it getting sick and and
Well,
and
you
passing.
got to do that because you want to. It's not something you should do.
Right,
It's
right.
like you should go out and have children and get married. Well,
Well, I definitely hear a lot of people telling me not to do that. That is one
yeah,
thing I will say about the internet is the absolute catastrophic danger of that proposal, for lack of a better term, is very apparent, and it's a no-win scenario right now. It's just absolute. It's a Kobayashi Maru right now. It's absolutely a no-win scenario, and I don't know how to solve that.
yeah. And
Not
the
with the
data.
way things are.
The last time I looked into the data seriously was about
Yeah.
5 years ago, and it was 54% of marriages, first marriages, end
Yeah.
indoors. That's like
Well,
playing Russian roulette with, you know, a six shooter and half the chambers are filled.
yeah, and I mean, I did. I mean, I'm not gonna harp on it, but I did notice you mentioned your first divorce, so I know a lot of people that have that situation too. And I mean, I'm 36 and never been married. usually if a guy is my age by now, it's not gonna, probably the likelihood of him getting married is not very high at this point. And not that I wouldn't want to, it's just not with these terms and conditions. There's a reason.
It's doable, but you do you want to?
Well, with even just the other day, and here's the thing: every day I open YouTube and it's 50 videos from TikTok where these women are literally just telling on themselves. It's that blonde girl from the other day. Everyone made a video about it. She was talking about how her husband was working too much and she resented that. And then that night she posted about how he left her that day because of that TikTok video. And she was back on TikTok making another video about it within hours.
Yeah, I don't know if I believe her or not, but yeah.
Fair. And views are cheap, right? It's maybe she didn't want to go with the OF, but that's about as cheap, right?
Yeah.
It is. Is that your pup there?
Yep. This is Sam.
Oh, Sam.
Sam has two jobs in life. One is to get my fat ass out and walk around. And the second is to wake me up if anybody's messing with the truck.
I couldn't imagine two more important jobs. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. How old is Sam?
Sam is just about 2 years old now.
He's still a puppy.
Yeah.
Still a puppy. We had Australian Shepherd. I think we had a yellow lab. We had a black lab. And then my dad inherited a Schnauzer and a Yorkie from my late grandparents. And those dogs both passed of age. And I think the Yorkie lived to be almost 20. Really,
dogs live longer.
Yeah, he was a Spitfire. And he definitely took care of my grandfather. He was his guy.
So, shall we open up the chat?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I have it up. I don't know if you have anything on your end. I did see.
I do, but nobody's really asking questions.
I did. Let me see if I'm getting the little spinny wheel. Let me see if I probably have to refresh this window. Sorry about that. OBS is great because it's not $50 a month like StreamYards is. I looked into getting that, and it's a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, let me.
My streams are long, and OBS just doesn't work on my phone worth a damn.
Yeah, you have to basically. It's a requirement that you use it on desktop, and it's funny because I don't. Well, I lost the chat here. Let's reopen. Oh, here we go. Okay, so I did see a few super chats come in. Modern Gnosis, we read that one. Shadow 6 for $4 and generous $4.99. Thank you, sir. Congrats on 5.3 subs, 5.3K subs. Yeah, it's the channel blew up. Raymond, and then Modern Gnosis also says Raymond is the Moses of the Manosphere. And wow, those are hot. Well, but also remember, Moses didn't get to go to the Promised Land. He messed up. He wasn't allowed to actually go into the land of milk and honey. My dad actually has a question for you. He says, "Did you say degree in mechanical engineering?"
Yes.
Okay. My father probably has a bunch of questions for you. Can you expound on that? I mean, what did you do with that?
I worked for Beechcraft and
right. Okay.
Then I worked for Raytheon.
Oh, very nice.
And I was able to tie in some, leverage some military stuff because I was in the Navy for a while. And at that point in time, I still knew people who were in and did a little bit of networking that way. Got up to be a engineer 5 at Raytheon.
Wow. Did you get to meet Dick Cheney?
No. No, I didn't.
Generation Apollo is in the chat. Good to see you, friend. My family had a rescue dog that was a pit bull and shepherd mix. Interesting. Very
Rescue
smart dog.
dogs are the best. Sam's a rescue dog too.
Smarter than some people. Yeah, I have to agree with you there. Rabbit Hole Reviews says dogs were sent by God. I would have to agree with you there.
Yeah, pretty much everything was, but
True. Brandon, I did not realize you were religious. This is great news. That is one thing that I have noticed a lot of when I do mention my upbringing, or if I have a video about the Bible specifically, I'll get a lot of feedback that there's a lot of Christians in these spaces, a lot of God-fearing men. Oh man, Brad Strung Out is here. He says, when I see people getting married, I actually see blow being snorted off a hooker's back by the divorce lawyers.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I don't know if you have any on your end you want to shout out.
I don't monetize my stuff, so nobody's giving me super chats. If anybody has a question, shoot. If not, they're just kind of heckling me.
Oh, no worries. I see some familiar faces on your end. I see Tom and Sir Grinch, Radical Rafter. I see some familiar faces. Howard Beale. Raymond is our Howard Beale. Who's Howard Beale? What is that? I don't know.
As long as they don't call you Howard Dare, you're okay.
Oh, Howard Beale from Network. Howard Dare? Howard Dare? I don't know that one.
You don't want to.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'll take your word for it. I'm gonna stop Googling now. Let's see. Kilt the Game is here. If you don't have children and don't provide your parents' grandchildren, like my parents scolded me about, 32 male, I am considered selfish because I don't want kids. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm a MGTOW monk, right? So I've kind of taken no marriage, no cohabitation, no new children to heart.
Okay.
And if you don't want new children, the Bible tells us to go forth and multiply, right? And I still haven't squared this away with MGTOW yet, but to set yourself up for a better than even chance of failure, where you are used and abused, and in a system where it's a 3-party contract and you're the junior partner and everybody else gets cash and prizes when the marriage or even just the union that results in children comes together. Everybody else wins except the man.
Correct.
96% of the time that's true.
So you mentioned go ahead.
I wouldn't do it again. Right. I had one wife where I felt it was my duty to get married because I got her pregnant.
Right.
And she wound up fucking a policeman when I was for working, bringing in the bacon.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was making good money for Raytheon. Yeah. And she went on and shagged this fucking policeman, making $45,000 a year.
But you weren't around. See, you weren't home enough. You were out working too much. Okay. Yeah. But you mentioned squaring that, the no cohabit, no marriage, no kids, squaring that with the Bible, go fruitful and multiply.
Yeah.
That commandment specifically was
it's not a commandment.
Well, no, not technically, no. But that command, for lack of a better term, for that instruction was specifically for the children of God. Now, in the New Testament, you confess with your mouth Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart God has raised him from the dead, you are children of God. So the Jews and Christians, that specifically was meant for Christians and the chosen people, not for the world. So to square that with no cohabitation and being, the be fruitful and multiply thing, very rare, few and far between is there actually a good, chaste, Christian, holy, traditional woman that is interested in being a wife and mother first, in that order. And this is where I absolutely agree with Andrew Wilson. In that order, wife and mother. Very rare to find that.
Yeah.
And Paul, in his letter to the Corinthians, specifically said it is better, or I think it was in Corinthians, he specifically said it is better for a man to not be with a woman at all than with a quarrelsome wife. And Paul was basically he was the guy, St. Paul was the guy to listen to in the church after Jesus. And his instruction was clear. Men should not get married. They should devote their lives to the service of others. The number one thing the church should do is look after orphans and widows, in that order. So it is. I never had a problem squaring the be fruitful and multiply thing with MGTOW Monk, with not wanting to participate in this fallen world, with not wanting to participate in this inane, endless cycle of never being enough for women. And saying, as someone who's basically an incel, I'm never enough for a woman. That's just been proven. That's been proven in my life. But that is not going against the big be fruitful and multiply. It's just not. That's not how I interpret it.
That is definitely not going against that.
Yeah.
If you are unable to, meet anybody that meets your
right.
Expectations, and they're not really even terrible expectations. They're nothing absurd or you don't have a list 25 pages long or anything like that. But I don't think that you're in the same position. I'm older than you, and it was easier to meet people.
Oh yeah.
I met my first wife at a party, and she was needing frozen lime stuff to make daiquiris. We were having a lime daiquiri, so I ran her to the store to get those little like tubes of frozen lime juice.
Right.
That's how I met my first wife.
Right.
We just started talking, and one thing led to another, and Eva was born. And my second wife, I was on a business trip for Raytheon.
Mm-hmm.
And I was chilling by a swimming pool, and I see this woman get out of the pool, and I'm like, wow. And my stupid little head talked me into saying, hey, you deserve a trophy wife. You work really hard.
The monkey brain started talking. I got another question for you from Dad, Homefront in the chat. It's specifically about something in relation to mechanical engineering. Kind of pick your brain a little bit, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So would you know how to design a nested spindle locked and activated by a electromagnet?
I watched The Lockpicking Lawyer.
So yeah, I won't talk specifically about what he's designing, but it's an enhancement. Go ahead.
Yeah, it could be done. How much do you want this thing to cost?
Right. Exactly.
What size is it going to be? The bigger it is, the easier it is.
Right. I think the saw blade goes up to 12 inches. It's basically he's designing an enhancement for an existing tool, a safety measure.
Okay.
And I don't think I'm at liberty to say much more, but he did put it in the chat, so I thought I would bring it up. I'll talk to him more offline. I do want to.
I was thinking like a door lock or something. If you're just going to lock in a saw blade or something.
Well, Yeah, it's a little more complex than a door lock. Again, I don't think I can say much more because he's very touchy
Okay.
on since this is public and I've you know
Well, does it rotate or reciprocate?
rotation. It would be rotation, yeah. Or wait, I don't know. I don't know if it's a reciprocating saw. I don't think it's a reciprocating saw blade. I don't know. I don't know. Um, I don't know. Maybe he'll answer it in the chat here. But
Okay.
Rabbit Hole reviews for a generous $5. Um, Says I'm already once divorced. I haven't been able to find a woman who wants to be treated like an wait. I haven't been able to find a woman who wants to be treated like a F doll, then promptly ignored for days.
Well, you should pay at the hole, and you can get that.
Yeah.
But
The
I don't recommend that either.
I personally I can't get myself there mentally. Like I could drive out to Pahrump and spend a couple grand and take care of business, but I just can't
A
mentally. I
couple
can't.
grand, dude.
Well, I mean, you got to pay. Gas ain't cheap, but Garrison with Garrison with a generous $5 here. Happily married with 2 boys. While I maintain positivity intentionally, I'm concerned with World War III, Civil War Part 2, considering moving to Argentina. Interesting. Do you, what would your thoughts be on that one?
Well, if that's his dream, if he believes it's going to be safe down south, um, go for it. I personally don't bother myself with uh, thinking whether or not we're going to go to World War III. People have been saying the end of the world is here my entire life,
Right.
and I don't buy it because
I,
it hadn't happened yet.
well, we were going to go into an ice age in the 70s, and then it was
Yeah,
global warming, and
right.
now it's just change. And just remember, it's all about the change out of your pocket. But
Well, first
that,
it was the Cold War, then it
right.
was
Well,
China, now it's Iran.
well, I was 12 or 13 on 9/11, and that, and then basically every 5 to 8 years since then, there's been some massive crisis that they keep pushing on us. But that brings up you said something specific I wanted to expand on. You said if that's his dream. I recently realized that almost every decision I've made in my life has been a reaction, not a proactive measure, much to my own detriment in the end. How do you're old, you have more life experience on me, than I do. You've been through a lot more than I have. How do you find yourself reconciling being proactive in life rather than just feeling like you're reacting to whatever crisis is at hand?
Well, you try and minimize the crisis,
Right.
and there are things that you can definitely have to worry about, like feeding yourself. We were talking about that earlier, and then you have just set your goals so that they can be achieved with the means that you have at hand. And if you're worried about stuff that you have no control over,
Mm-hmm.
getting yourself to some place where you don't think the bad outcome that you see will affect, that's healthy for you in the long run.
Right.
If this guy is worried about World War III and he thinks that the northern hemisphere is going to blow itself up, well, go south.
Right.
I would recommend oh Chile. Actually, I looked into South America a little
Really?
bit. Yeah, And I
Interesting.
remember stopping in Chile when I was in the Navy, and I really liked it.
What about it?
Well, it's very beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
It's more modern than Peru.
Mm.
Uh, if you get on the eastern side of the Andes down there, it's lush. The western, the Pacific side, which is most of the country, is
Mm.
kind of a desert. But the people are fairly friendly, and if you speak a little Spanish, you can get along. And once you get down there to live, you'll learn it better, I'm sure.
Right.
Cost of living is pretty reasonable.
Mm.
It's not like Southeast Asia, but it's pretty reasonable.
Right. Right. And okay. Oh, by the way, Dad did chime back in. He said that saw is rotation. It's not reciprocating.
Okay.
I don't know if that makes a difference, but
Yeah, it does.
right.
You hold, but I'd have to talk to your dad offline
Right.
in
Yeah,
more
it's
detail.
too much. It's too much. Yeah, I know enough to misrepresent what he's trying to say, and that's I'm guilty of that. But let's see what else we got here in the chat. Yeah, people are talking about World War III. Yeah, I basically I had to start I had to stop worrying about it because my bills aren't going to get paid if I'm just cowering in fear all the time and not getting out there and getting new jobs. And I'm not talking about a W-2 job. I'm talking about the I just lined up basically some day labor for a month worth of day labor on a job site with a GC that I know. It is paid pretty well.
Yeah.
It's a tenant frame up of a dentist office. It's a new build in a shell. So walls, drywall, blocking, ceilings, paint, basic tenant fit up. So it'll be a good 4 to 6 weeks of work. And it'll be nice to be able to do that. But it's also nice to be able to do that for a couple weeks and then come back to doing nothing and be able to afford to do that.
Right. Yeah, and that's the life that you have chosen, and that's good for you. If you're happy with that, then go for it. You shouldn't do anything that you hate.
I
At
heard
least
a
not the long term, anyways.
right. I heard a good saying, and I think I've said it already on the stream, but it was actually from the singer Jewel on her Joe Rogan podcast. Funny enough, she said that she realized she was tolerating intolerable situations too much, and it was causing literally like constriction in her. She called it constriction, but stress, undue stress, because she was tolerating intolerable situations. And I think that humans are designed to bear heavy burdens, and we accept burden treatment way too readily, especially from other people who purport to be our friends and loved ones. And people also need to remember that blood is not thicker than water, and family, you don't owe family anything. I personally owe my father my life because he saved my life. He came and got me and took me to the hospital. But all of that withstanding, I feel like we stress ourselves out too much, and a lot of the negativity that you see in the manosphere spaces on YouTube is reflective of that, especially the real dark corners of black pill YouTube and doomer content. That
Yeah.
It's I understand the frustration about women, but at the same time, it's like I share it. But at the same time, when I'm not talking about it in a 20, 40-minute video, it's not like I'm just standing around, balling my fists up and shouting at the heavens alone in the shower. That's not how that happens. So I
And
don't, yeah,
if you really wanted to have kids, go get a surrogate.
true. That's true.
It's $65,000. You want a baby? That's how much it'll cost you to rent a womb.
Oh, the nut that's higher than the number I heard. I heard
Well,
50, but
that's in America. I see billboards as I'm driving around.
the let's see here. Rabbit Hole Reviews says Americans always looking to flee to a better place. The more I travel, the more I appreciate the U.S. Happiness is where you find it. Absolutely correct. I really kind of recoil at the passport bro thing. Um, it seems like I get a lot of comments and a lot of pushback. Basically, people are just saying you just have to leave the country, and there's a part of me that's just insulted by that because this is my homeland. Like this is where I was born. Like I'm an Ohioan. I was born in Dayton, Ohio. That's very important to me. Um, and that comes from how I was raised. I was raised with very, very much caring about where we came from and our heritage. And I don't like being told so dismissively to just go travel. Everything will be magically better. And it is kind of uh,
You will get laid.
that's what I keep hearing. That's if that's the only thing that matters to you, I guess that's fair. But at the end
You
of the
will
day,
not. Women are the same everywhere. It's just that they're monkey branching to you when
yeah,
you're
yeah,
overseas.
yeah.
You
And then
know,
yeah, that's true. And then I'm the bad guy for the locals. It's yeah. I mean, I watched Full Metal Jacket. And I watched the second half of Full Metal Jacket. I'm very um of what Kubrick was trying to say there, but man, I apologize. I'm usually not this lacking in energy. I very regrettably had to go to a viewing today, so I'm kind of still kind of dour on that.
yeah, it's understandable.
It is life, but it was good to see people I haven't seen in a while. But so what's Brandon? I know you stream quite a bit from the road. Um,
Hmm.
what's your? I mean, can give the people maybe that don't know who you are, kind of like the elevator pitch of what you do and what you're into.
Well, I just I stream my daily drives as I work and drive around America. I go and I meet people and we have dinner. Uh, and I think I'm up to 32 people that I've come and met
Oh, really? Wow,
wherever they're living.
wow.
Some of these guys that are on here tonight, I've gone and seen Grinch and uh, Mouth Agape Ape. Uh, some of them are out of the country, and I haven't been able to come see them. Um, Others, I don't exactly know where they live, but it's the internet. You really don't want to. A lot of people don't want to say, hey, yeah, like
It's
I have a job every couple of months or so that takes me to Columbus.
right.
And now that I know that you're in Ohio, I have no idea where, and I don't want to know. But I'm
Well,
thinking
come
maybe
the
the next time I'm in Columbus, you can,
well
because you
the
said it's commutable.
when it is when the weather gets better, we'll have to my dad and I barbecue a lot, like slow smoke brisket, ribs, that sort of thing. When the weather
Right.
finally gets better, we'll have to coordinate and have you over for a brisket. And speaking of dinner, we'll send you with some to go bags. It ends up being a lot of meat.
Well, you can tell I don't miss a few, too many meals.
Oh,
So,
I'm getting ready to get right back there with you, man. I've been eating, especially this winter. It has been unseasoned. I don't remember the last time a winter has been this cold for this early and then this much snow. It's unseasonably snowy for what it usually is.
yeah.
Trying
And we got
to
I'm in Kansas and I'm going to be driving to Nebraska tomorrow. And we've got another storm coming through tonight.
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah, they got harp turned up to 11. I'll get demonetized for that one. They the last stream that I did, I don't know what I said, but I said something that got it limited. It was limited, and I didn't even bother trying to do the human review thing. On the videos, I will, just because I know for a fact there's like nothing super offensive in those, but to me. But if you ask the women in my comment sections, and everything I do is super offensive.
Yeah.
Trying to get back up in the chat here. Okay, it won't let me go too far here.
My last strike, it was a comedy stream.
Oh yeah,
we tied Sasquatch, the drones, a injection that you take, and the shortage of Guinness beer in England all together. So
was that an actual strike?
I got a strike. I was out for a week.
Holy well, we don't need to say that on the stream. So I think we'll be fine. I hope I don't get an actual strike. I haven't got an actual strike. I've gotten limited on the ads before, but they haven't actually yoinked the stream yet.
Oh, you haven't lived till you've had your whole channel knocked out.
Well, I know. I have a Rumble, and I have a second channel, but it's tied to this channel, so I need to make another one. But I don't just want to talk about women endlessly. That was never the intention here. I just wanted to get on here and talk about what I think about certain things. That was the whole idea. It just so happens that I'm a male who is single, and biological impulses being what they are, you end up talking about that. Looks like my dad spoke to you.
I rarely talk about women on my channel.
Right.
A lot of times we just sit there and stare at the road. I've got people who say they turn off the sound.
Oh, really?
And just watch the drive.
Well, my dad said he subbed to you, so you'll see Homefront Forge in the chat.
Cool. And there's another guy that's into forgery or forging, not forgery.
Important distinction there.
Right. He lives out in Oregon, and I went and took a 2-day forging class from him.
Awesome.
So that was something I'd always wanted to do.
Turn a hammer.
Because eventually I want to be able to shoe my own horses. That's sort of a side goal.
What is it? Felding or no? There's like blacksmithing, and then there's a farrier, I think.
Yeah, farrier
is the discipline that's specifically for horseshoeing. And there's if your last name is Farrier, that there's a good chance it's like your last name Smith. That means that you were a blacksmith in the old country, and farriers were farriers in the old country. But looks like we actually have a lot of people from across the pond. Phil Yeri says greetings. And then Martin D says, this Englishman is going to bid you all a good night. Well, thank you for being here. I think it's probably, 3 a.m. there?
Yeah. We've got a guy from Scotland, a couple of Canadians on my side.
There for a little while, I had some Finlanders in my chat, and that was cool. Selwood 1989 is here. Good to see you, sir. Evening, Raymond. I got my McDonald's cheeseburger ready for my meeting my woman. I don't know if you watched the video from this morning. It's another pulp video. It doesn't matter, but it was funny.
I commented on it. You've forgotten my comment. Oh, I'm heartbroken.
You commented. I get so many. You commented on. I sound like a woman now. Oh, I get so many. You commented about the cheeseburger. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, I said if you had a bacon cheeseburger, you'd be even better looking.
I think so. It's true.
Yeah.
My dad says all farriers are blacksmiths, but not all blacksmiths are farriers. Yes, very much so. Looks like Mike Anthony is in Jamaica.
Cool.
Wow. I'm still amazed. We got 100 people over on my side, and I can't even scroll up to the top of the chat because it froze the window on me. But
we had 18 in mine at the peak, and now it's down to 5.
I try to check in. I know that you can't necessarily answer the chats while you're driving.
Yeah, I can't at all.
Right, exactly. It's a concern. It's obviously you don't want to jeopardize, safety. It's the
Yeah,
key.
mine. The other
Exactly.
people on the roads, that's second, but mine, I don't want to.
I tell you what, I don't like driving on the highway. I'm going to sound like an old lady here. I really don't like driving on the highway, mainly because traffic is just everyone's so damn. It's really hard. Like some of the truckers, they come over and they don't have room to get over for you. So you either have to like punch it and go, or you basically have to honk on the brakes and just get out of their way. It's like a Death Race 2000 out there these days.
Well, and then people don't watch other people's blinkers. Like if I am going to pass somebody and somebody's coming up behind me,
Right.
And I put on my blinker, half of the cars, if not more, punch it so that they'll get around me before I get over.
Right.
And like if we're in a hilly area, you don't want to make me wait because
No.
I am going to come over and then I'm going to be climbing a hill.
Right.
And I'll be slower because I had to slow down so as not to hit the person I was going to pass.
Right.
Another thing is people just get, they think because I'm leaving 300 feet between myself and the vehicle in front of me, that's a good place to pull into.
That's enough room. I have noticed that people don't understand the three. You're supposed to let something, it's supposed to be like 3 counts ahead of you or something like that.
That's in a car.
In the car. And that's not how
Yeah.
a truck, it's obviously not how an 18-wheeler works. It's Mike Anthony says, y'all are very informative. Just watch your possible latest vid and been years since this evening. I don't know what that means. My dad says 4-wheelers are the worst. I'm considered Phil Yeri says I'm considered a blue roof.
I have no idea what that is.
I don't know what that is. I didn't know if that was something you knew about.
But we've got guys like Sergeant Grinch who are married, who he comes on every day. Another guy that's married that's on almost every day is Mr. Hemi Four-Speed. He's a independent contractor up in Canada, and really freaking interesting guy. He's doing auto repair this winter, though. The transmissions in both of his vans have died. So,
I've seen him on there. Yeah, it is interesting because I want to get more into auto stuff, and I've thought about making videos about my cars and doing maintenance and stuff like that. But I feel like that would probably be veering off of the trajectory I'm on right now with this channel, and I don't really want to mess things up. But you mentioned specifically that they're married. So obviously, like, I'm not, you're not. A lot of the people in the space, they don't. I see a lot of people even in my chat. They say, "Oh, they have girlfriends. They're married. They're not celibate. They still have women in their lives." So you're obviously not one of the people that says that's complete anathema to being in the manosphere, MGTOW, that sort of thing, right?
Well, I don't think that anybody should be excluded.
Exactly.
It doesn't mean that I want, I don't allow women on my panel or to participate in my chats. There's a lot of guys out there who are pretty close to sucking on a pistol some night.
Yeah.
And they hang out in my chat, and women stress them out because when a woman gets in your chat, she draws attention to herself.
True.
And takes it away from whatever the topic at hand is. Whether we're talking about dogs, or we're talking about, the countryside, or we're talking about, the topic of the day. it goes away from whatever that topic is and becomes about them.
Right.
And I don't, in my personal life, I don't have any dealings with women other than at work or my daughters or my
Mhm.
mother.
I'm
Other than that, I don't seek out their company, and I don't find them good conversation or good company
I
at all.
it's funny. I think now that I think about it, I'm pretty much I've fallen into not fallen in a negative sense, but that's how my life has turned out also. The only interactions I have with them are business transactions, checkout girls, my mother, um, the women that I knew from 20 years ago that were at this funeral today.
Yeah.
It, it's that's it. And I have a saying that I think you might like. You probably have heard it before, but when it comes to girls, I one of the things I like to remind myself of is the quickest way to cure a crush is to have a conversation. And
Yeah.
the you can idealize them and pedalize them all you want, and they can be hot and everything. They're just the what are they? The sirens. They sing the siren song, but then you actually try to go
Lure
talk.
you on the rocks.
You go. If you're Homer, I'm bald. You're Homer, and your mouth is drooling. You're ready to go. Go talk to them about something that actually interests you, like 5.7 liter Hemi transmission, it's 8-speed transmissions on a Hemi, or photography or anything.
Yeah.
It's not, and of course I'll get misogynist in my comments for that one, but I really am kind of the persuasion that, like Thinking Ape says, like, men and women just don't get along very much. And the older I get, the more I realize that that's really, really true. And
Well, now that we don't have a common goal to build a
yeah,
future for the family,
yeah,
and I have no reason. I'm
right,
not going to have any more kids. I don't. The reason I went monk was in when I was still living in Ukraine,
right.
and I had my second divorce. And 1 month I went out on 16 dates, and
Wow.
every one of them was a job interview.
Yeah, that's it.
And I was like, "Fuck that! I'm not your fucking sugar daddy.
Yeah.
I'm not your retirement plan. If the first thing that you're interested in me about is how much I make, and who my clients are, fuck you. I don't.
Well, yeah, that's here. I mean, that's the first thing that women apparently do is they'll Google you and look at all of your, like, my there's a very good reason I haven't had anybody interested in my YouTube channel. That I show my face on it. And I my Google, I mean, I don't have a job right now. You know what I mean? Like if you want to research me and actually find out anything about me, there's monetarily not much that's very appealing, to be honest. Um,
Yeah.
but I don't have, I don't get a lot. I really don't get women in the chat ever, to be honest. And when I do get comments from women, it's always the same kind of comment. And I've learned to kind of just ignore them, not really respond to them. But again, that part of life just is kind of off the radar for me. It's something that aggravates me. I feel like there is a part of me that feels like a failure because I've never had kids and I'm not married, but there's another part of me that's very aware that it's like leading yourself to a guillotine and asking for it to fall on your head. It's not a good deal. And it sounds cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason. So one thing that I kind of, to reiterate what you were saying, is one thing that I've come to the conclusion of is I'm really tired of getting told how and what a man is when last I checked, I'm actually one and I get to define that for myself.
Yeah. If you've got X and Y, you're a guy.
Right. Exactly. I just love that all of these requirements. You're not a real man if blah 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 blah. It's tiring. It's tiring.
I don't take opinions from people who are not subject matter experts.
Right.
You know, and
Sure.
there's no woman in the world who can tell a man what a man is.
I
What a woman tells you when she says that is, this is the kind of man I'd like to know.
Right.
Not necessarily even the type of man that she wants to have sex with, but the type that she would feel comfortable with in public.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah. When I get the comments about you need to fix your teeth, you need to shave your beard, you need to get different glasses, it's like all of these things are about how you look around me, not about me. That's a good point. That's a very good point. Man, I really appreciate you talking to me about this stuff, man. It's really good to get the perspective from somebody who's actually lived overseas and gone through that
and
lifestyle.
Here's a hint. I wasn't always a heavy guy, but when I was in high school, I never thought I'd ever get laid. If you want to have sex, willing partners, and you're not interested in building a relationship, learn to play guitar, learn to play drums. There are different types of clout out there but trust me on this one, it works.
Right.
And maybe you should go for a banjo.
Sing about Richmond, north of Richmond, right?
Yeah, he plays the dobro.
Oh man, he's all right guy. He's all right guy. He just disappeared though. I don't know what happened to him.
He got sick of all the BS.
Fair.
He made millions, and then it's like,
dude, I'm telling you, man. All I need is enough to pay off my dad's house and my house and my truck. I'd be fine with that. Yeah. If I made millions, I'd pay off my brother's house too, because he deserves it. But it's funny because those are the first things I think of: my dad's house, my brother's house, and my house. But I make no you always dream in your head, but I know you got to grind at this thing, and the millions are for the Mr. Beast types, those guys who know exactly what people want to see and hear. And I'm quite frankly, I'm too lazy to put up appearances and lie all the time. So what you see with me is exactly what you get. And sometimes you get me real fired up and real on point, and other times you get me kind of worn out after a long day. And quite frankly, I'm actually probably going to get off here in a little bit because I'm getting pretty tired, to be honest. It's been a long day, man. I appreciate you. I appreciate you talking to me for now an hour and a half. We've gone a half an hour after our original agreement. I know that you reached out to me. Thank you, by the way. I know you wanted to talk about positivity. Do you have sort of a message for the guys to leave with this on that subject?
Don't give up. And if people have overcome much harder stuff and came out on top,
right,
than what anybody is going through right now, unless you've got imminent death hanging over your head. I've got some of my former students that are in Ukraine right now, and they have to deal with death every day.
Right.
And they're not giving up. What we're going through right now, just because, women aren't getting with us. Think about what it's like to live in Sumy.
Yeah.
And every time you hear, high-pitched rotor sounds, you think, is that drone coming for me right now? Is that drone going to land on my parents' house? Because they're still living there too.
My grandpa talked about with Nam. He talked about you could tell the difference between a mortar launch and a helicopter. Like if you heard the helicopters, they knew to duck and cover because they actually had time to duck and cover before the fire started. But if it was mortar launch, you never heard it. and it just, he made it out. But I couldn't imagine. I mean, we don't live with that threat at all. We have enough safety and security around us to worry about things like random girls on TikTok, because we spend all of our free time on YouTube. That's yeah. I don't know. I don't have anything else to add to that. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. I got one of my buddies who is he's decided to take his spare time and get a second degree. He's a mechanical engineer, and
Wow.
he's getting his degree in computer programming because he wants to be ready for when the war is over and the economy gets back going, and he wants to get into IT.
Awesome. That's overseas,
So
over there.
yeah, that's in
Wow.
Ukraine. You know, in a war zone, he's doing this in a war zone. So you know, what problem do I have?
Yeah.
Am I going to make it to the next truck stop before I have to? You
Right. Right.
know,
It's
my problems are nothing.
it's true. I worry that sentiment is received as, at least maybe I'm projecting here a little bit, that sentiment that, there are obviously bigger problems in the world than what I'm dealing with today. A lot of times that can come off as dismissive. How do you reconcile? Is that just is that a listener's problem? Is that the student's problem, not the teacher's?
Well, the problem is that that has to be your own personal
Mm,
um, viewpoint.
yeah.
You know, I can't look at your problem and tell you it's nothing. I can look at my problems and compare my problems to people who really have problems. You
Right.
know, I've got a regular listener who has been poisoned by the Marine Corps,
Oh my
and
God.
he's on his third freaking bout of cancer because he drank the water at Camp Lejeune. And he has gone through his chemotherapy and had ups and downs with it and never complained.
Wow.
You know, it had horrible things happen to him. You know, he lost all his hair. He's been in great pain. He has to suffer lots of indignities of getting this medical treatment, but he's persevering. He's coming through out on the other side because he wants to do some stuff.
Yeah.
He's got goals, and he set his goals realistically to his present situation.
Right.
You know, he lived his life so that he could maximize his retirement. And now, because of the government, he isn't going to have an old age. And he knows this, so he set his goals accordingly.
Right.
And you don't hear him being angry. You don't hear him doing the whole poor me, poor me, poor me. And you look at guys like that as an example
Right.
of who you could be if you were a better man.
Hmm. Wow.
And then you try and live up to that example.
I couldn't think of a better way to end this. I don't know what to say to that. That's phenomenal. You're absolutely right. I'm Brandon, you give me a lot to think about here. This is I'm glad you reached out, and I'm glad we had this conversation. Thank you for sharing your story, and hopefully you guys will go over and road trip with Brandon a little bit. I know I try to get in on the chats every once in a while, but
It's not for everybody, but if you want to come, you're more than
hey,
welcome.
I was keeping. Go ahead.
If you want to talk, you got to get on the panel. I post the link every day.
Right.
I can't read your texts.
Right. Well, Brandon, I am gonna hop off here, just because it's been a long day for me. But I will hop in on your panel the next time I see it come up in my feed when I have some time. I don't want to keep you much longer. We've been going for much longer than the hour we talked about. Thank you so much for talking to me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So, Brandon, be well, and we'll talk to you soon, okay?
Peace out, brother. And that was our talk with Raymond. No marriage, no cohabitation, and no new children. Those are the 3 tenets of MGTOW, and they will keep you out of indentured servitude and usury. So be good to each other and help each brother out if you can, because MGTOW's for normal men, and normal men are the only ones that are going to help another man out. MGTOW is about helping other men. It's not about just being selfish in your own self. So, and if Hemi was here, he'd tell you, don't bring your fucking girlfriend around here. Have a purpose in life, and if you don't find a purpose in life, you'll find one in women. Bye.